Today we are revisiting one of our favourite episodes. In fact, it was the first episode we ever shot. We're back with the team from Middle Island Penguin Project, and we're going to catch up with the Maremmas that protect the penguins in this beautiful area. My name's Sarah Jones. Welcome to Dog Jobs Australia. It's a cold and wet wintry day here in the coastal town of Warrnambool in Victoria. We've made a return to revisit one of our favourite stories, the world-famous Middle Island Maremmas. I've been met by Middle Island Penguin Project Officer Lillian to get caught up on how things have been since we were last here 2 years ago. So Lillian, we're here enjoying some of Warrnambool's classic winter windy weather.
Yes, certainly an authentic experience for you.
Tell us about our little friends here.
So we've got Avis and Amor here in the paddock. So they are the Middle Island Project's education dogs. So they spend a lot of their time here at Flagstaff Hill just showing visitors and everyone else the type of dog, the type of breed that they are, because as you've probably noticed, they're a very unique breed.
They are, definitely. And even though their role here is for education, that guarding instinct is still there, isn't it? They're still on patrol, looking out for these goats and llamas.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though they're not trained as guardian dogs, they certainly still have that natural instinct that you can't turn off.
We last visited Flagstaff Hill and the Penguin Project back in the start of 2020. It sounds like lots has changed since then.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the main thing being the global pandemic that we experienced, which triggered a few changes within the project, particularly impacting our education program and how we were able to run those sessions, but also other challenges around staffing and that kind of thing, navigating all the rules during the time. But, you know, we've adapted, we've overcome, and we're still going strong today.
Yeah, that's really fantastic to hear. So we're talking about these beautiful dogs, but I realise not everyone watching this show might have seen our last episode. So maybe can you just briefly recap why they're going to this island?
Yeah, of course. So over on Middle Island, which you might be able to see behind us over there is a little penguin colony. So unfortunately, over the years, this little penguin colony has been predated by foxes and other threats, which saw it decrease quite significantly from over 800 down to below 10.
Oh, wow.
So nothing was really working though. You know, Warrnambool community, the local council, everyone was getting behind it, trying to protect these little penguins, but nothing was working. And there was a really great idea came about to use Maremma guardian dogs to protect the little penguins over on the island. Because after all, these Maremmas, which protect chickens, chickens are very similar, another flightless bird, to little penguins.
Yeah.
So if it works for chickens, why can't it work for little penguins? So in 2006, a trial began putting these Maremma guardian dogs over on Middle Island to protect the little penguins from foxes. It was a success. The colony increased over 150 birds down from below 10. So we're still continuing to this day because the little penguin colony still needs protecting. And our Maremmas not only protect the little penguins over on Middle Island, but they protect all the seabird diversity over there as well.
Right, yeah, because you'd have amazing other species as well that could do with some protection from those foxes too.
Yeah, we do. We have the short-tailed shearwaters, so some people might know these as mutton birds. We have cormorants and sooty oyster catchers, just to name a few. By having the Maremmas over on Middle Island, we are protecting not just the little penguin, but those other birds that live over there as well.
It's been 14 dog years since we were last here, and I've heard there's been a few changes to the guardian dog team, so I thought I'd ask Lillian to get me up to date.
So at the moment, our three guardians are Mezzo, Isola and Oberon, which you met last time.
Yeah.
And you also met Yudi and Chula, who were our older original guardians, and unfortunately both of those dogs last year passed away due to old age.
Yeah, I think they were a little older when we actually met them, so it sounds like they had a really long, happy life.
Yes,
project.
certainly. And the last few years, as they were older, they got to spend time with their carers and the people they loved and the dogs that they loved as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Oberon, when we met him, he was essentially a big gangly puppy, but he's actually gotten the call up to go to the island and actually work. How's he doing? Is he stepping up?
Yeah, he is. So Oberon is 3 now.
Wow.
So he has undergone more of that guardian training, and this season he will be spending more time out on Middle Island protecting the little penguin colony and the other seabirds out there with his 2 older siblings.
Fantastic. And do you think he has enjoyed that process and actually getting out there in the role?
Yeah, definitely. He loves getting to go across with Metsu and Isolai. He gets a bit sad when he doesn't get to go across with them, so it's really nice that he's able to head across there a bit more now and do the guardian role.
Yeah, you can sort of imagine him in that almost like the little cousin role of like seeing all the cool big cousins get to go do it, but now it's finally his turn as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all excited as well to see him out there this season.
So I heard last season was a little tricky, like weather-wise, in terms of getting to the island. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, here in Warrnambool our weather is a bit unpredictable, and it means that sometimes we can't safely get across the island. It might be due to storms, it could be due to the tides, the swell, even the wind, anything like that. It can just make it too dangerous to get across there, and obviously safety is our number one priority, so we don't want to be risking the dogs or our safety to get the dogs across there. So yeah, it has been a bit more difficult to get across.
So on a perfect day, you really have to wade through on the island, but some days that's just not possible.
Yeah, so we can see the channel between mainland and Middle Island change at any time. So it might be a beautiful sunny day, unlike today, and we still might not be able to get across. So what happens is the sand in that channel can get cut out by the tides, the swell, wind, storms, anything like that, and it just makes it too deep and dangerous to get across.
Right.
So that's what we are seeing at the moment, and we're hoping that this changes soon so we can get across, but it can change overnight. So one day we might be able to get across, and the next it's starting to cut out and getting a bit more unsafe, and that's when we would make a decision to take the dogs off, because we don't want to risk their safety, we don't want to risk our safety, so if there's any chance of that happening, we'll get them off so that they're safe.
Yeah, and in terms of, say, Oberon, who's kind of fairly new to the role, has he been having ongoing training?
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much from day one, when we get the puppies, we're training them. This does include taking them down to the water, getting them familiar with walking through the channel, getting to the island. We just want to get them exposed to as many of these things that they will see when they're working as a guardian as early as possible, so that they are comfortable doing those things.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
More from our return visit with the Middle Island Maremmas after the break. I'm back in Warrnambool to revisit our very first story, catching up with the Middle Island Maremmas. Here at Flagstaff Hill Museum, hundreds of people visit every day to find out more about the great work these dogs do to help protect the Middle Island penguins. So I was curious to learn about the impact the project has had on the town. Thankfully, Paul from the City of Warrnambool was on hand to fill me in.
So Paul, can you tell us a little bit about what the Maremmas mean to Warrnambool?
The Maremma is a fantastic attribute to the Warrnambool region, and also visitors to Flagstaff Hill. The fantastic thing about them is they're not only bringing visitors in to look at the dogs and the Maremmas themselves, but they also carry out an important function for conservation for the region, for the little fairy penguins based on Middle Island. So having that connection where they do that conservation work, they're cute and cuddly, which also helps, and then also with the movie that came out years ago, yeah, they're fantastic. Really great for the asset for the town and the city.
So Flagstaff Hill, how long has this operated as sort of a tourist attraction?
Yeah, well, it's basically from the 70s was when it was built. The lighthouses and the lightkeepers' cottages have been here since, the 1850s sort of thing. Is an important part of maritime navigation and things. But yeah, from the 70s, it's been a historic local village, then the museum started up and things like that, because we've got some fantastic museum pieces and artefacts from shipwrecks. So it's very much...
Yeah, it's an incredible, kind of quite haunting museum there.
Yeah, it is. So it's bringing to life a lot of the shipwreck stories. I mean, people are travelling the shipwreck coast to get to us here at Warrnambool, and bringing those stories to life with what happens at the village here, with the artefacts, actually pieces of shipwreck from the wrecks around here, and then also the stories at night with the shipwreck, tales of the shipwreck
so
coast.
people can come at night and there's a bit of a show.
Yeah. It's quite a great sound and light show down there at the harbour there.
Yeah.
And it brings in the stories of the historical aspects of the region, from the Big Bang and the Indigenous cultural areas here, and the whaling aspects, and then a big focus on the shipwreck victims and the shipwrecks that occurred on the region. And it does focus on the Lockhart shipwreck. So that's where great night activity and things.
Yeah, so it sounds like the Maremmas have been this new chapter of history. So obviously Warrnambool has this very long history, lots of interesting stuff to consider, but now the Maremmas is this new chapter.
It is, and that's what's great about a site like this, always having new things coming in to, for visitors to experience. And it's sure, it's great, they're cute and cuddly, but the fact that they do that conservation work with the fairy penguins just makes that authentic experience that people can have with them, and also the village and the life here as well. So.
And it's been such a successful project that it seems like it will be really ongoing, so it might be the sort of thing that, at some point someone's going to be there with their grandkids having seen these Maremmas when they were little as well.
That could be well and truly the case, because the penguins aren't going anywhere, hopefully, and the Maremmas are a great attribute to keep them safe and secure.
Yeah.
And certainly the program of having that, I can't see it changing. It'll be an ongoing project for sure.
And everyone loves little penguins, they're so cute. So historically you've always got lots of tourists from overseas coming. That's been quite challenging the last couple of years with COVID.
Yeah, it certainly has. So very much relying on a lot of the domestic market and interstate market coming through here. So that's been great. We've just come off our busiest weekend ever for the Warrnambool region, which has been fantastic. So the tourism side of things and people visiting the region is key, and a lot of visitors are looking more for that authentic experience. They're not just wanting to get out and snap a great shot. They want to experience and be involved in the nature and also the aspects of the village. So having the Maremmas here, where it's a great authentic experience, it's a great good story, and as you say, people love penguins, people love dogs, and bringing them together, and the fact they're just 2 kilometres away over at Middle Island. That's what makes Warrnambool a great city. Everything's so close. You've got the beautiful city life, and you've got the great natural life and the historical aspects and the shipwreck stories. So.
Yes, that would be great for the visitors, either overseas or even just the locals, to come to see the Maremmas and enjoy all the rest of what Warrnambool has to offer, because certainly the great food and everything else here too.
And back in the early days of the Middle Island Penguin Program with the penguins and things, the locals could visit Middle Island. They could actually go out and visit it. So when that program came into being, they had to forfeit that opportunity. But there was surveys done, and the community was really wanted to see the penguins saved, and said, fine, we don't need to visit the island anymore. So it is, just protected now for the penguins and the dogs and the Maremmas doing their thing, which is great.
That just is a wonderful sacrifice, isn't it, to, as you said, for those penguins, and to keep those penguins going.
That's right, and it's a real sense of pride around the city of Warrnambool that they've done that, and the achievement that's going on with the conservation aspect. So.
Well, it came so close to potentially losing them, so I'm sure the locals are so proud of the dog project.
That's right, and it was the first time it ever occurred. Nobody had ever used dogs or anything like this in this sort of format of conservation before. So the fact I was a local farmer down the road that used to protect his chickens with these Maremmas and things, the Maremmas, it was great that it could occur here as a first for international conservation. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. Real homegrown heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's what's great about that is that the Warrnambool community and can share it with the visitors through the Maremma program and through Flagstaff Hill. So it's just a fantastic story.
So it's fantastic that the dogs have been able to help protect those penguin populations. But I understand there's lots more conservation happening around Warrnambool?
Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, the whale population that migrates up and down the east coast of Australia, coming from Antarctic right up to northeast coast of Australia, they pass through here, especially the southern rights. The southern rights have got a nursery here where they come and calve and things like that every winter. So that's another fantastic attribute when visitors come to visit Warrnambool. They can get a feel for what's going on in that aspect as well with the conservation of whales. And there's not much we can directly be involved in that. It's just like letting it happen. And it's great they have started coming back to give birth to their young calves here at just down at just around the corner here in the next bay there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's great to catch up with my friend Avis. We're going to get reacquainted. I'll see you after the break.
Sadly, weather conditions had drastically changed across Middle Island, so this time around we were unable to make the trip across. But that didn't stop Olivia, Avis and I making the trek down to the beach for a very helpful reason.
So we're here with Avis at the beach and we're going to do some scent work. And I think for our viewers, traditionally scent work, when we think of dogs, it's them using their nose to maybe track down foxes or other animals. But actually the scent work today is going to be a little different.
Yeah, exactly. So for when we can't get across to Middle Island, which is out behind me, their smell from their fur and their wee and their poo can stay down here on the beach so that those foxes do definitely stay away. They know that this is the dog's territory and not for them to come and trespass.
Right, so we know that dogs have an amazing sense of smell, but foxes' sense of smell is pretty good as well.
Yep.
And they know that a big scary Maremma could be around and it's just not worth coming out in this area.
Exactly right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that must be quite a nice little trip for Avis as well, to get to have an enjoyable beach day.
100%. Definitely for the dog's well-being just as much as it is for the conservation side of things.
And for us, it's a pretty terrible day at the beach. It's wet, it's windy, but for a Maremma, this sort of season they really enjoy.
Yeah, they are more than happy to be out in most weather conditions. Definitely up on the island when the guardians are working, they're more than happy if it's raining or windy, which we definitely get here in Warrnambool.
Yeah, absolutely. So the education programs you do, I know you have school groups come through, you also have people just book on just to get a bit more of an experience of the Maremmas. What do the education programs look like?
Yeah, so we've got penguin protectors talks here in Warrnambool. Definitely we took a hit from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Middle Island project does rely heavily on our education, the funding that we get through our education program. It was hard when we didn't have any participation because we couldn't run the tours due to social distancing things and those impacts, but it's been really great. Over the previous summer we actually engaged over 1,800 participants in our tours, which was fantastic. And then of course everyone gets to take a photo with beautiful Avis or Amor.
Okay, so it's not just coming and watching someone talking, they actually get to meet a Maremma as well. Fantastic.
Get to see our big dogs, and we run them at Flagstaff Hill and we also run them down here on the beach so people can get to experience being down here in front of Middle Island.
Yeah.
And also get to see where we sent the beach and everything like we mentioned earlier.
Well, it's pretty special seeing how close the island is. When you think of an island, you think, oh, it's probably out there in the ocean, but it's really right there. And on a day like today, you see how choppy it is and how hard it must be for the Maremmas to get over there.
Yeah.
So it certainly enhances how important it is to have them here, at least on the beach, keeping those foxes at bay.
Definitely, yep. So it can be quite hard to cross over to the island, especially during the winter months. The penguin breeding season tends to be from about October to March, so that is when we really definitely try and get the dogs across as much as possible.
Yeah, when they're breeding, I suppose, where they're extra vulnerable because they're up on land a lot more. Maybe one's looking after the chicks while the other one's out there hunting for food, so tough time to be a penguin.
Yes, exactly. Don't want any foxes coming up to you then.
Yeah.
Time to head back up to Flagstaff Hill to say our goodbyes to Lillian and the Maremmas.
So in terms of the future of the project, obviously the three who are on the island now will at one point reach retirement. What does retirement look like for the dogs?
So retirement looks like living it up at the farm. So when the dogs aren't over on Middle Island, they live at a farm, and when the dogs retire, they retire back to the farm. It's where they know it's surrounded by the dogs that they love, and they also have chickens there, so when the dogs aren't on Middle Island, they still need to be guarding. You've seen these guys.
Yeah. These two are always looking out for dogs or bikes going past, so it sounds like a natural drive that is really satisfying for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we can retire them from the island, but we can't retire them as guardians and as dogs. So when they retire, they'll be heading back to the farm and looking after those chickens there.
So they'll head back to the farm, and at some point, once the dogs are getting older, you'll be training up a new cohort of guardians?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always like to have 3 fully trained guardians. So we always have 2 on the island at a time, and we like to have that 3rd one just in case one of the dogs needs to come off for whatever reason. Instead of needing to take both the dogs off, we can rotate that 3rd one on and bring one off and still have dogs over on the island. So as the dogs start to get older, we will start training up new dogs so that we can always have those 3 fully trained guardians.
Sounds like they have a good work-life balance as well.
Absolutely.
So if people would like to find out a bit more about this project, where should they go?
They can head to our website, warrnamboolpenguins.com.au, and they can find out more information about the project and also how to book into an education session, which is a fantastic way to learn more about the project in a fun and engaging way. We can take group bookings for schools or other organisations, but also throughout the summer and Easter holidays, we offer these sessions for public bookings.
Fantastic. So people would actually get to come here, actually see the dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we normally head down to the beach and we run our education session down there. Absolutely, people get to see one of the dogs, take a photo with them, and just experience all the project and these dogs have to offer.
Well, thanks so much for having us. It's just an incredible project, but I think we better all get out of this wet, windy weather.
Does sound like a good plan, and thank you for having me and helping to spread the word about the Middle Island project.
Of course. Great to be able to tell this amazing story again. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you next time on Dog Jobs Australia.